Welcome everyone, this is Travis from Blade Rescue here in Airdrie, Alberta. So today I have a customer from Calgary that has brought me a lovely set of Zwilling Kramer Damascus steel, not Japanese knives. So they're kind of in a Japanese style, still operating with German metal. Okay, lovely knives, very nice pattern on them. So we got our chef's knife here, also known as a Gyuto. So what you have here is you look at this handle, it's rounded on one side and pointed on the other. Kind of got a taper here, got a nice little decorative lines there. Okay, and we also have a little paring knife. Okay, same thing, a little bit of a darker handle, very nice, from the same Zwilling Kramer set. So the customer complained about excessive dullness. So what we're going to do is, just before, because I always like to, if I'm curious to know how sharp it is beforehand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it across a BESS tester. A BESS tester is just a professional level way of testing how sharp a knife is. What you do is you, across this line right here is a filament. Let's call it like a type of like clear line, fishing line, dental floss, but it's a actual specific filament in which you get from the company. And you cut across the filament slowly with even pressure. And when the filament cuts and breaks, that's when you know that how much downward pressure. So it's measuring, putting the pressure down. So this is nothing but really a type of like a household type scale. So I already have it set up here. So all I gotta do is turn it on. So I'm gonna turn it on here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this knife and I'm gonna put it in the holder here. And then I'm just going to slowly rock it forward. You can put this in the back or you can put it in the front. Okay. Some people, I would say I put it in the front here. So just for my own sake, because everything's a little backwards with the video today, I'm going to move this to this side. It's on a magnet. I'm going to move it to this side and I'm going to go from this way down and we should see this number. We'll make sure it's 0. Okay. We're going to see this number climb. And I would say a number for this is a high-end type of knife. This knife is meant to have around a 12 degrees, so I'd like to see that number down around 200 or less. It feels pretty dull. My guess is we're going to be up over 400. Let's have a look here today. Ooh, that is not good. So 835 is, I don't know, a splitting axe. Okay. So the dullest knife I've ever put across this thing, which I'll show you guys a video of that coming soon. It's just kind of a little fun one I've been working on in my spare time. But what you're going to see is, I'm just going to set the filament again here, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke test. Okay. So again, this is called a BESS tester. Super common among sharpeners. Not everyone tests it because it can be expensive. I like to test them. Okay. So we saw 835. We're going to try a different spot. I was about here on the blade. We're going to try a different spot on the blade. I'm going to try the heel of the blade. So I'm going to go much further back and I'm going to try it about here. And we'll see if the number changes at all. Because sometimes down here, if people are cutting up at the front with it, hopefully back here retains some of the original edge on it. It is really dull. Okay, 745. So a little sharper, but not much. For a knife that should be cutting low 200s, that's not good. Also, while I'm changing out the filament here, I posted a video a couple days ago on Wednesday, December, I don't know, say 16th, something like that, whenever Wednesday was. And in there, I opened up a new set of box knives. It's a longer video, but I'd encourage you to go watch it. And what you have here is I am going to be showing you, because it's a brand new set of knives that I opened there, I am going to show you the test scores, the BESS tester scores from all of those new knives. So you have an idea of what a Zwilling kind of stamped steel knife would look like right out of the box. Okay, so we're going to test this little paring knife. We're just going to reset it here. And we'll just test it once, short blade. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the same holder. And we're just going to put some even pressure again. This does feel sharper, so I expect it not to be at 700. I expect it to be much lower than that. Okay, but 425. Same thing. that's about what it felt like. I would expect that number to be under 300 for the thickness of the knife. So this one here, we are going to take it down to a 12-degree bevel, which is factory edge on this. I did measure it ahead of time. So this has a 12-degree, which is quite thin. That's almost like a fillet knife. These higher end knives are meant to be sharpened more often. Okay, so more often. So this is going to be a little bit of a thinner, sharper edge on it. You should almost be able to shave with it. Maybe once I'm done, I'll give a little demonstration on the back of my hand, but I'm starting to run out of hair. I'm gonna have to grow it back. Maybe I'll use the other hand. And I'll give you guys a sharpness tester on how they do once they're sharpened. So just hold on for a sec, and camera magic, this will start in a minute. Welcome back. Video magic, we're back, and the knives are already sharpened. Took no time at all. Knives look great, beautiful, all cleaned up, nice new edge. Of course, it's hard to see on a camera, especially with my bright light up there that I use to see. Everything looks very nice. So one thing I noticed in the first video, I said, hey, these knives will be somewhere down around 12 to 15 degrees. Some people, but this knife would normally, I would say when it's manufactured, something like this would be typically around 15 to 20 degrees. That was my mistake before. I would have preferred a knife like this, somewhere around that 16 degrees if I personally owned it. I would have to sharpen it quite a bit, but it would be really, really sharp. Again, sharp enough to like shave hair with it. But when I put it across the measuring, and I noticed that the bevel on the knives were not even. So at the tip, it was actually more like 22 degrees. Back here was more like 16 degrees. And it was really, really uneven. Even as high, like up here in the front here was as high as 25 degrees. So this comes from either maybe some mistakes in previous sharpening. It just comes from use over time as it wears down in one part, because people have a preference where they strike the cutting boards and vegetables with it. Also can come from maybe some not the best honing. Sometimes if it's uneven honing, when people drag it across a hone stick, it accidentally lifts up on one edge. So I evened out the angle, and I put the whole knife at 20 degrees, which is really standard for a typical chef's knife. So the knife was moved to 20 degrees, as was the Perry knife. It was already at 20 degrees. I haven't got a chance to talk to the customer, but I decided to leave it at the original 20 degrees, and I'll offer him some sharpening in the future if they want to lower that down for specific use. But right now it's at 20 degrees. So when I test it, I don't expect the testing to be like down at low 200s, as I mentioned in the previous video. I expect it to be close to 300, which would be very standard for a sharp 20 degree knife. So we got the BESS tester turned on, it's zeroed, the filament's already in there. We'll strike it somewhere in the middle. It'll be even all the way across when it's professionally sharpened, so I'm not too worried about that. So I don't have to do it multiple times. That's more just for show. So let's see how far I go. So it looks like about 310. So right around 300, give or take 20, 30. That's within the realm of error on these kind of things. Depends on sometimes how tight the filament is. You will see people on the internet that use these things, and what they'll do is they will be so proud. They'll say, oh, I got it down to 200. And everyone's like, oh, we can get as low as 75. What's the sharpest knife in the world? People just brag about how sharp they go. And it's just so stupid and dishonest. Because at the end of the day, if you get too low, the blade is too fine, too narrow. And as a result, it's just going to dull too fast. Okay? You want the knife to be structurally... Let's go a little bit more towards it. You want the knife to be structurally sharp for long. So there's 270 there. So yes, I could take this knife and turn it down to 50 if I wanted to, which is a razor blade, but it's just going to dull too fast. We don't want to have something that dull after only a few uses. So the idea of having it somewhere, I like to have most of my knives right around that 275 range, just under 300 would be very typical for an everyday use kind of knife, unless it's a specialty knife, a fillet knife, something like that. I have a nice fillet knife here I'm going to be doing a video with later. But like you'll see that fillet knife, because I'll bring that down to 16, 15 degrees. I've sharpened it before. And as a result, that fillet knife, I will take that down. You will be able to shave with that after. Because those 4 degrees between the difference between 15 and 20 is a huge difference. Again, $2.95, so we'll leave it there. And I will show, maybe I'll just do a quick paper test, and I'll be right back with you guys, and you guys can have a look at what this looks like cutting paper, because that's what every sharpener does most of the time, just because they don't want to spend money on the BESS tester, either owning it or continuing to replace the filament. It does get expensive. So paper test is usually very common for most of us to show our consistency. So let's do that. And just like that, there is our Damascus knife. A little bit different angle, different light. Okay, nice handle. What we're going to do is just quickly demonstrate a paper test. A paper test is really simple. You just take a thin piece of paper and draw the knife through it. Thinner the paper, harder it is. This is very thin paper. This is just a Princess Auto catalog. Okay, and what we're trying to do is just show a quick clean cut through. Some people use thicker paper. That thicker paper is a lot easier to do. So what we want to do is just make a really simple draw through it, and we'll see how well it goes. See how sharp it is. Okay. So pretty clean cut. That tells me that the knife is sharp. Okay. So the idea is this one's already kind of ripped. The idea is that demonstrates a nice clean cut, how sharp the knife is. And that's a typical way a lot of sharpeners, if they don't have a BESS tester, do it. So again, my name is Travis. I'm at Blade Rescue. Follow me on Facebook. Check me out on YouTube. I'm just new setting up here in Airdrie, Alberta, and I can do just about any kind of knife. Thank you.